Today, knowledge as a tree. Welcome to the School of Mike, and today I will do a short analogy of treatise. It's the same way as we did before. You remember this whole mess of ideas that I sort of made to explain how I think that the human mind develops. As I said, the treatise model can explain many things. I think that if you divide things into three, you can easily grasp them or like handle the concepts. What I mean to now with treatise is to explain human beings, and you can sort of all is almost as though we make a human being here. In order to explain what it is to be human, we could use the three elements of treatise. To be a human, to the human experience, would be that we are a body, and we have an intellectual mind and a creative mind, and we have a realm of ideas and thoughts that we have sort of fixed and sorted out in our minds. But the important thing is to remain as a child, and to remain creative, open, without preconceived ideas. I've mentioned before that my favorite way how to reach into the creative side of ourselves is basically to sit down and find times of stillness. This is what happened. At one point, it was a couple of years ago, during like January, February, March, I was quite diligent and disciplined to wake up early, do a little bit of stretching, and sit down and just look for silence. Basically, I sat in a room and it's quiet before everyone in the family woke up, and I really tried to push my mind back or down or out or in to nothing. And I remember as I did this, I felt it's like when you get into the meditative states or like the creative states in your mind, picture starts to arise and you stop thinking in words, because words feel too slow for the creative acceleration that comes in. So I remember sitting and became really quiet, and after a couple of days of doing this, it goes faster and faster and you feel better and better. I remember looking at myself and the knowledge, and now I'm gonna focus on this area, the knowledge area, so like the middle side of treatise. Sometimes I draw it like this. Never mind. We could use this analogy that I came up with that winter. I'm gonna do knowledge as the tree of knowledge. I mean, this is nothing new. You can find it in the book of Moses, like in Genesis or something. The tree of knowledge. But this came to me like from within, this analogy. I got the idea, I should have practiced making a tree. Here's the tree and here's the leaves outside in the tree, and then we have like some big branches, and then we would have like the stem and the ground, and then the root system. I remember feeling that as we grow up, if we liken the mind with the tree to grows up, it's sort of in the beginning, it's very small, and it sort of can change, and you can split into other things very easily. You can mold and shape a young tree quite easily. But as you grow up, these bigger branches are decisions. If we look at every branch like an aha experience or a decision that we make, the bigger branches here would be decisions that we made long time ago. Like for instance, I decided that I was going to be really good at playing drums, as I've said before. So there was one decision that I made like some 20 years ago, and it has grown with me, and the branch of drumming have evolved, and I made a new, I like go into symbols, and it sort of gets finer and finer here. My knowledge of playing drums. And the way that this tree grows, this will be another chapter on its own, or like another video on its own, but I call it the aha experience. I think that every aha experience is like a split of a branch. Like you move forward, and sometimes you have big aha experience and sometimes small. But these are the moments where the knowledge is created in your mind. So I felt that in an everyday life, when you're awake, when you're out and you go, you sort of put on the leaves, if I should say that. You move like out on the thinnest branches, like out on the leaves. You like when I go to work and I sit in front of people and we do some things. All the decisions that I've made throughout my life are the ones that get sort of executed and the people that see it. Now, if you have a branch down here with a big trauma, for instance, if I would have an abusive upbringing for some reason, it's a terrible example, but that does happen sometimes, that people have traumas from the childhood. You could have what I think is like a broken branch down here, and from this broken branch some more branches start to grow, and when they have leaves, the leaves are not really functioning. So for instance, when you people that are scared of dogs, we can take the dog example. If someone gets scared of a dog when they're young, it becomes like an aha experience, or like a moment of learning, where dogs, I write dog here, you become afraid of dogs. So as you move up and you get older and older and older, when you see a dog, you sort of automatically lean back on this trauma, the trauma experience. Sometimes these traumas can be so well hidden and so down behind the leaves, so you won't even understand why they show up. You just react on them from the inside. Now, the idea that sprung up with me was that when I spend time, so if this is the mind, that I sort of, when I meditated, I shut out the external world, and I try to shut down this. I mean, at the moment, this realm of knowledge is represented by the tree of life. And it's a bit upside down, but down here would be the root experience of being alive, which in this model is up here. I hope you're following along. What I'm trying to get at is that when you meditate, you erase the knowledge realm. So you sort of erase the tree, you sort of walk back on the branches. And I felt a few times that when I walk back on the trees, and I sort of can land down here, and then I can look up and see how the tree is structured from the base or from the inside. A few times when I've done this, I found a broken branch in my realm of knowledge, and I managed to sort of switch it over so that it's healed. So the trauma sort of gets erased or flushed out in my realm of knowledge, because the important thing here is that in our minds, let's write mind here too. In our minds, can you see what? Our minds, this is important to remember. If something is created, if we have time here and things move on, if anything is created in time, it can also end. This is a fact of life, that it swings back and forth. So if you would have an opposition in everything, so if you would have a start to the trauma, there is an end to the trauma, and you can choose when this end will happen, when you will end the trauma and you would flush it out, and it would be as though the trauma had never happened. So if this is when you're born, year 0, and then you move along, and so maybe when you're 10 years old, you have a trauma of something. And then when you're 20, you've had enough of it, and you sort of figure out that the trauma is not necessary. So the trauma that comes into your life here gets erased, and you're back to your root like your root self. This is the analogy of the tree, and I see that the time is out. But the important part here, and the next video is probably gonna focus on the aha experience, or the aha moments. But the tree, if we liken our minds with a tree, we can, through silence, work our way back through our minds until a point where we were as when we were newly born. And in this sense, you can consider almost like all knowledge that you have in your mind is a trauma. This is a bit extreme, but you can also argue that not only being afraid of dogs is a trauma, like negative things are trauma, but we can also argue that positive things, or really anything that has come in to your mind through your 5 senses, would be a trauma. It's a bit extreme. It doesn't you don't have to look at it like this. Anyway, I leave it to this for now. This is the tree of knowledge that's in our minds. Thank you for today.